Technical Session 2, MSME Financing in India at the rate 2047, Long-Term Vision for Economic Inclusion. So once again, a very good afternoon. And our audience is slowly trickling in. Welcome back, all of you who are just joining us. Please kindly take your seats. And a gentle reminder to please do remember to either switch off your cell phones or put them on silent mode. I'm sure you all enjoyed the lunch and the break. Meanwhile, if I could request you all to please kindly quickly take your seats. This session will be moderated by Ms. Shweta Shah, co-founder and director, Silver Compass Capital. And this is a technical session which is entitled MSME Financing in India 2047 Long-Term Vision for Economic Inclusion. Please kindly join us. Take your seats, please. May I first request the esteemed moderator to please join us on stage. May I request you all to please kindly extend a warm round of applause. The esteemed panelists for this session are Mr. Aditya B. Chatterjee, Managing Director, Equifax Credit Information Services Private Limited. Mr. Ankur Bansal, Managing Director, Black Soil Private Limited. Mr. Vivek Tiwari, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Satya Micro Capital. Mr. Govind Singh, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Utkarsh Small Finance Bank. We extend a warm round of applause to all of them. Once again, before we launch ourselves into the session, please do pay attention. We warmly welcome onto the stage Mr. Dheeraj Mohan, Chief Strategy Officer, Veritas Finance Limited, our esteemed panelist. Before we launch ourselves into this session, we would like to once again share the QR code on screens. Please kindly scan this QR code if you would like to share any questions with any of the esteemed speakers. Your questions will be taken. You can scan the QR codes. That will save a lot of time and allow us to include as many questions as possible. So once again, please do scan the QR code to provide your feedback and also submit or share any questions that you might have. Thank you. With that, it's over to you. Not working? Would you like to come?
Hello. Yeah, it's working now. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's a post-lunch session, and I'm hoping that, we'll be able to ensure that it's entertaining enough and engaging enough for everyone. So the topic today is, something which is of interest for all of us here. And we are going to talk about the vision for 2047 for MSME financing. MSME financing is extremely important, and there is no doubt about it. It's always considered to be backbone of India's economy. As we look towards India at 2047, I think they are not just more than just financing, but it also engine of job creation, innovation, and inclusive growth. The question today is not just about closing the credit gap, but it's about reimagining the whole subject, okay? And I think we have a wonderful panel, a healthy mix of, speakers from different areas. We have Mr. Aditya Chatterjee, Managing Director of Equifax Credit Information System, who's going to give us his perspective on this topic from the Bureau's lens point. We have Mr. Ankur Bansal, MD of Black Soil. He's going to give us the perspective from the lender and especially from the private credit space, we have Mr. Vivek Tiwari from Satya Microcredit. His inputs on the MFI space and the transition between MFI to MSME. I think that's something which we are looking up to him to, give us some idea about. We have Mr. Govind Singh, MD and CEO of Utkarsh Small Finance Bank. His valuable inputs, will help us to understand how bank is looking at this vision. And we have Mr. Dheeraj Mohan from Veritas Finance, an expert into MSME financing. So, I welcome you all the panelists. And I would like to start this session by, asking a very broad-ended question to the panelists here. And my first question is to you, Govind Singh, sir. When it comes to MSME financing, and we're looking at 20, 25 years from today, what is it that you feel is inevitable? What is it that is unavoidable? What's that one main thing which you think is going to, help all of us to reach there? So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. So as far as MSME is concerned, you yourself mentioned that it is going to be the engine for growth for especially a country like India, and what is also happening right now, I think the policymakers, the government, the funders, and the MSE themselves, they all are undergoing a significant change for last a decade or so. I mean, there used to be changes, but this pace of change that is happening in the across is very, very fast. Accordingly, I think what will happen in future also, and if you look at one thing, obviously it is going to be data, which will be most, I mean, which no one can, miss today. I mean, and I think we have the expert here, Aditya is there, so he is the expert of data part. But I think data is one thing which is going to be most important part. Obviously, when I talk of data, it also includes the technology part, all those, these superstructure is there. But data is going to be the most important, part as far as MSME is concerned going forward. And most importantly, because I think the way MSME themselves has gone through the process now, they are not the same MSME what was 20 years back. Banks are not the same, and the data availability about the MSME is far, far superior today. And I think it will be much more informed, even credit decisioning, point of view. So I think data is going to be the most important thing as far as future of MSME financing is concerned.
And sir, I agree with you. I think data is going to be very, very important. But I think more than that, the way we will use data, right, and the way the models will be built around different types of data will actually define how we take this forward from there. I think, Dheeraj, if you would want to contribute something here.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good afternoon, all of you. So I keep looking at my phone because I actually spent some time on this topic so that I can put my thought to hopefully an audience which can shape what MSME is going to happen in 20, 25 years. My background, I've seen a 30,000 crore MSME portfolio, which is secured against property, behave over a span of 10, 15 years. And I think if I have to look 25 years from now, and if I just step back and see what was there in the early 2000s, there was no UPI, there was hardly any documents which you could use to underwrite. Property was a big challenge. MFI industry was the only product which taps what we call the base of the pyramid or the start of micro lending. You fast forward today, the whole economy has changed. The infrastructure has changed. While I agree data is important, data was always there. The question is, can you capture it easier? But I think 25 years from now, in my mind, the biggest shift, and if you look at, there are, I think, reports of government published reports. Can we unlock property in this country the way shares have got dematerialized? As an MSME lender, and where we look at giving a loan against property, you should know the difficulty it is to underwrite or to do a technical evaluation of a property. Clear title deeds are something which is so badly needed in this country. If we can, one, get them digitized, that means property disputes reduce. Bankers or lenders or financiers are able to actually leverage such an asset. And if you look at credit to GDP ratio, credit to household property value is abysmally low. And I think that's the big change which I am personally rooting for. Some states have started to digitize property, but as the country does it, you are automatically going to unlock so much of value, and that will drive growth. So this was one which I thought requires government intervention, requires financiers to push through, requires borrowers to understand that ancestral property is meaningless. How do you get clear title deeds? How do you get the household women as part of the title deed? And there are financial institutions which will incentivize you for getting all of that done. But I think that will really shape the way the country is moving. So this is one. Second is, since we have, CRIF, we are so used to seeing the credit bureau. But there is something before the credit bureau. And for the lack of better words, I'll call it the payment bureau. You've got UPI. So the person first makes a payment, and hopefully he gets a track record. Then he becomes new to credit. Then he comes into the credit bureau. But with institutions like NPCI, etc., can we leverage what I would call the payments bureau to underwrite MSMEs? And again, when I talk MSMEs, it's sub 10 lakhs. So my perspective is restricted to my domestic help, my driver, and that segment. But can we get the payments bureau working in this country and look at, like GST, look at turnover of those who are still excluded in the GST, and then get underwriting models and then bring them into credit, and then organizations which focus on the credit bureau then starts enriching. And that's when we actually have created data, and obviously data is important. I can go on, but I think I'll stop here. These are two significant changes, I believe, which will happen in the next 20-25 years.
No, thanks. That was very helpful. Ankur, from your perspective, anything other than the data, the way we use data, and the credit bureau, is there anything else that comes to your mind which is going to, change everything?
Hello. Yeah. Thanks for having me over. So I totally agree with my esteemed colleagues here. So if I think as a B2B lender who's been not doing this for the last 10 years, for us, ultimately, when we're looking at lending to another FI or we're looking to lend to an MSME, what we always say is that, are we able to recover what we're lending? Because it's very easy to, as we all know, to give finance, but collection is very tough. So when you think about collections, we realize that the entire governance framework of actual collections, enforcement, everything is pretty broken. And it requires a lot of effort from a different part of the organization on the legal front and other things, where the borrowers who are defaulting are taking full advantage of the system. So there is it doesn't help where the moral compass is not on the right side, and the systems are also not completely aligned, and the contracts are not valued, right? We have all the documentation in the world, but ultimately when default happens, the entire process changes. So it may be secured, unsecured, etc. But the process of collections is not straightforward, right? We all know that. It's not how we always, if we have an international investor, they'll always be like, okay, India, collections recovery is it's almost like a write-off case for them. That, okay, if it goes in that process, it's not easy. Even something like NCLT has not been as productive as it's supposed to be. So we need to find a way to make this more digitized, right? Technology, data, all these things will be there in the next 20 years. AI will be more utilized. All of that, I don't think anybody is arguing about. But how we can make this process much faster, seamless, and at the same time create some kind of, I was just talking to somebody that how in mutual fund industry has created a very strong MF sahi hai. In the NBFC space or the FI space, there should be default sahi nahi hai. There needs to be some kind of a soft communication that people should not feel it's so comfortable to default, right? And of course, China has very different examples out there which are extremely serious, which we keep hearing about. But there needs to be certain other thoughts that the government should maybe think about, or more seamlessness of being able to recover your loans. As he rightly mentioned, you have a property, you have recovered, but actually being able to recover that property is not easy, right? It's not easy to go out and just do anything about it. So even in any segment that you take, so the secured part of it is good as mental comfort, I feel, because we lend to a lot of secured backed companies, but ultimately they also know that recovery becomes very challenging. So I think the more easier this becomes, the people will also be then thinking twice before defaulting. Otherwise, they know that, okay, you can't do much about it.
Right. No, that was very insightful, Ankur, and I think default sahi nahi hai. I'll remember that, and I mean that's a great tagline, and probably that can help the segment also in a way if it really becomes synonymous with lending in this space. And if people are able to recall and recollect and remember this, I think it's a great thing. How we use different tools to achieve this is another, and probably we can have more discussion on that going forward. Coming to Vivek Tiwari, sir. Sir, from your perspective, and you have a great experience dealing with MFI customers, is there something that you feel will be extremely important to look at and utilize? Any specific tools or any specific process or anything that really needs to change at the ground level, which will help reshape this industry in the next 25 years?
Thank you so much, Sweta. Uh, as a microfinance industry, we have seen the cycles in last 30 years. We have seen lots of ups and downs. And as an industry, we have learned a lot from our previous mistakes and came out with new solutions every time. Years before, the biggest challenge was whether the lending can be done in the bank accounts. As of now, even lending and collections are happening, digital and cashless, that is happening. The way microfinance industry has created its own data, its own legacy in last 30 years, I think we are the only sector where we are submitting our credit bureau's data to bureaus on almost every day. That is the strength of the sector. The adaptation of the new technologies is, earlier we were thinking it will be very difficult, but we understand that even the customers and employees of the microfinance companies, they don't hesitate to adopt something new, they don't hesitate to try something new. The way the legacy is being developed in last several years, my assumption is that in coming years, the machine learning, AI, the blockchain, all these things are going to take a big role, and the ULI will also play a different role in the identification of good customers, and in credit underwriting of a particular MSME, the data is going to play a very big role. For next 4-5 years, definitely it is a transition year, but when we are looking at 2022, I personally see India as a prosperous country where the all MSMEs having good track record, they must have a right to be funded. They are required, if they are going, someone is willing to set up an enterprise, the money should be available. And we have to segregate between three. One is capacity to pay, one is intent to pay, another is those who are having capacity to pay but don't have intent to repay. Means the biggest challenge is that having capacity but don't have intent to repay. That is the core area where as a sector, as a regulator, as a country we have to think. Otherwise, if those who are having intent to pay, definitely they will pay today or tomorrow. Those who are paying, definitely they are paying for better tomorrow, and they believe in the ecosystem. And in my belief, the next 22 years, whatever is the microfinance today, that is going to be converted as a MSME finance in next 10 to 12 years' time. The microfinance customers itself has evolved from nano finance, microfinance to gradually MSME. The way Utkarsh Small Finance Bank and other SFBs are graduating these customers from one level to another, I think that is a marvelous story which can be covered. The way the microfinance customers are being graduated to MSME, that is another gray area where with lots of focus, lots of, I think, support, that segment can be evolved further. And the credit history, even in this particular time, the most of MSMEs, they have performed comparatively much better, whether it was secured or unsecured. When the entire cycle was going in a different way, the MSME's performance was comparatively different. That is the area where we see a silver lining, that the funding to MSMEs can be more secured. If the funds are being utilized properly, they are given to right people at right time for right businesses, definitely we are going to recover our money, and that is one of the biggest hope for the country. And to feed the country like us, to make it sustainable, the development of MSMEs are one of the most important aspect, and without MSMEs, as a country, we cannot survive. And this is going to be I think, only religion for the country where the employment should be, the people or institutions who are developing more employment, they should be encouraged, they should be supported. Even if some government cost is involved in developing the same, that should be, the different funds can be focused in that area, even for the innovation, even for the credit cost guarantees or something, because sometimes smaller institutions, they hesitate to design something new. They hesitate that if something is failed, how they will survive. So some backup support is required. Otherwise, the MSMEs have a very bright future in India. And when we are looking at 2047, we may see a good Bharat.
Right. Thank you so much,
Sure.
sir, for that insightful, discussion. So, I think one line which struck me when you said is that credit should be available for every deserving borrower. If he deserves it, he should get it, right? So, I think the underlying theme here is that I think we all have been focusing on the data, and I think Aditya, my next question is for you. Um, Traditional credit models have always struggled with thin file MSMEs. So, what is the fundamental change that one needs to look at for assessing MSMEs' creditworthiness over the next 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, according to you?
Thanks, Shweta. So before answering the question, I'll just give a bit of a data around it and then come to the question. So as you know, MSME is not a homogeneous group, right? So micro is about 95 to 97% of the volume is micro, and that is what everybody is grappling with in terms of thin file, in terms of data. To give you an idea of growth, we all know that the line which grew the most last 12 months by about 90% is gold loan, so that everybody knows. But do you know the second largest growth in any line, which was 85% growth year on year, was business loan, unsecured, 0 to 2.5 lakhs. So low ticket BL unsecured was the second largest growth line in India the last 12 months, which was upwards of 80%, and the growth trajectory continues, right? So my point of giving this data point is that there is already a lot of traction which is going on. These could be, as my colleague said, the MFI on the way up, graduating those loans, or in terms of proprietors taking those loans. So a lot of work, a lot of energy is going there. Secondly, what we need to improve is that, however, if you see the business loan, again, 0 to 2.5 lakhs, I'm taking that as the lowest ticket bracket. The unsecured lending is still just 10%. Secured is 90%. So unless this unsecured lending comes, I don't know a good percentage, 50, 50, 60, 40, whatever. But unless the unsecured BL, low ticket BL unsecured, goes from 10 to let's say 50, that would be, from a data perspective, a real signal that the MSME collateral-free, low-ticket loans have taken off. So that is some data coloring to it. Coming to Shweta, your question on thin file, and Vivekji mentioned about ULI, etc. So ULI is actually live, and we are live in that platform. I have some better idea because we had meetings with RBIH on ULI. It's a platform which is in the build, right? And RBIH will actually connect about 200 APIs. For example, Bureau is one API. So imagine 199 other APIs. A lot of things like land records, etc., are already on it. Vahan platform is on it. So lot of action happening. But the fun is that when we go to a large bank and say connect, they don't have any enthusiasm because no one knows the use case till now. So like anything in India to become a digital public good will take its time, but I think the thin file or any other new to credit, the ULI is an amazing platform which the RBIH is building. I think 2026 will be a year of build, and adoption will start 2027 because of the rails. We can confidently say that the adoption will be extremely fast when it starts.
Right. Thanks, Aditya. That was very helpful. So coming back to Mr. Govind Singh, sir. So how do banks leverage OCEN, ONDC? You have account aggregator framework. What do you think is the role here? And do you think banks are in that sweet spot to actually grab this opportunity and leverage these frameworks and take this forward from here?
Yes, certainly yes. I think all banks and those who want to MSME funding, maybe NBFC may be a little better off, because of, I think they are much better, they're swifter in fact in adoption. But I think all banks, be it small or large or big banks, I think all are trying to use this. And as you mentioned, all the platform in fact. So people have, at the back end, people have integrated all these things, and this is a part of decisioning metrics for every bank nowadays. I mean, people may be at different journey, at various stages, and sometimes it may be based on ticket size also. I'm using something for 1 to 10 lakh, and maybe 10 to 50 lakh. I'm using different framework or different structure available. But I think all banks are using this, and my sense is, and even from the client angle also, I think we are seeing that they are also understanding that these are being used on a regular basis. So my sense is, and lot of platforms are also coming, who are independent actually, whom I can use, and they are not in the lending space, but they are the platforms, and they are using all these, all the systems available, all the processes available, all the platforms those have come. So my sense is, going forward, the usage is going to much higher. As you rightly mentioned, the first time itself, data, maybe it was available, but it was not being used, as you also mentioned. I think when you are using these data, then we are also getting a lot of platforms. And people are using those platforms now. Obviously, it may depend upon my comfort, my risk ability, because each platform comes with a different type of risk, actually, because this uses algorithm, the various data cuts. So everyone will have their own set of rules, regulations, and which they are going to use. But there will be massive use of all these platforms by all the players going forward for sure.
Right. So just taking this forward to you, Dheeraj, my question to you is, all these frameworks, are they more useful to achieve scalability, or are they more useful for achieving better underwriting?
I think it reduces the chance of error. And in the business we are in, giving money is very easy. You take a bucket of money, there's enough of people who are there, for you to give. And it's subjective underwriting. So, it's even more easier, right, if you're under pressure to give money. So that's the whole challenge. And I think it reduces the level of error you are operating in. And as you reduce your error rate, your ability to grow faster. Today, why can't all of us grow 50, 60, 70, 100% in such an underpenetrated country like India? Is because we do not have the capacity to absorb the errors which we may make. And such kind of platforms actually reduces the error and helps you grow a lot more faster. Operational risk, for example, credit risk, all of these tend to come down. And if I can, just go back from, look forward from a 20-25-year perspective. So there are platforms like Threads. I don't know how many of you know Threads. Threads is a phenomenal platform. It is aimed at MSMEs. The adoption rate, I'm assuming, is fairly strong for certain segments of the MSME. Platforms like Threads will emerge more focused on the micro enterprises. And that just allows credit to flow very naturally to those who have a good history or who's sitting on a good bill which they need discount. But I think platforms like Threads will pick up. The other one is Udayam Aadhar. We all know about it. And I keep wondering, why are we pushing this down? And if I am a shopkeeper or I'm a two-wheeler mechanic or I'm a person who has 20, 30 cows and I have an Udayam Aadhar certificate, you know, what is that value of that Udayam Aadhar? And I was speaking to a cousin of mine, just to draw some parallel. You know, he holds an American passport. And the glee and the power he has when he talks about his American passport, you know, and if I just draw parallels, if you have an Udayam certificate or Udayam Aadhar with you, and like he said, what does that entitle to you? Entitle you? Does it entitle faster underwriting, higher credit, better credit guarantee schemes, which I think is the next big thing in the next 20 years will come in. As India's GDP grows, our affordability of taking the poor and moving them up through credit guarantee schemes will only get larger. And those schemes, today you have Aadhar, but, and you have CBT, but can they get linked to Udayam Aadhar and that certificate? So it starts to make you feel entitled that if you've got the certificate, you've got this number, things will happen a lot faster. And I'm sure all of us are pushing customers to get this certification. Yeah, left, right, and center. Now, and I'm sure all of them are asking you, why are you asking us to do this? The second you link it to credit guarantee schemes, or you link it to other such benefits to reduce the error, one, to help us grow faster, increase data points, I think the whole machinery will work. So I'm very confident that 2047, if I'm alive or not, the things will be a lot more better because there are building blocks which are in place today. So all of you watch out. So next time when you see this, platforms like Threads, platform like Udayam Aadhar, what I mentioned earlier, digital property, payment gateways, payment bureaus, all of these are building blocks we're sitting on today.
Thanks, Dheeraj. So I think I want to just take one last round of, question with each one of you. And if you are to describe what will redefine MSME financing for 2047, what would be that one word or a phrase that comes to your mind, Aditya, to start with you?
I can't do one word, 2-3 sentences.
2-3 sentences is fine.
So
Yeah.
again, I'll come back to my point that I will start from the bottom of the pyramid up. And if I go to the absolute bottom of the pyramid, one thing is a success story, which is the woman borrower, MFI story, etc. So I think, of course, we know that that is a great success story. To underwrite the other parts, right, of the bottom of the pyramid, of course, it is true that just bureau data won't be sufficient. Neither will it be always complete. That's the reality of it. It has to be got together by other digital public infrastructure. Nothing better than UPI. We know that in India. Therefore, I'm very optimistic in platforms like ULI, etc., working very much on it because I think that is the answer for the bottom of the pyramid. And in India, if you solve the bottom of the pyramid, everything else is a cakewalk. So that's my take.
Thanks, Aditya. Over to you, Ankur.
So I would use the word transparency. Okay. So all these systems, etc., when they come together, they'll provide more transparency to be able to underwrite the customer. So the more layers of data gets easier to underwrite, the faster the scalability, everything comes in. And obviously we have seen fintechs try to do it very aggressively, and whenever it goes into overlending, goes in a different direction altogether. But the more transparency we have, it's easier to underwrite. And my second thing is that MSMEs, one big requirement they have is working capital. So it's just not which cannot be typically solved by business loans. So that's where the Threads platform becomes very important. Which brings to me another aspect that in India there is a complete sort of a way of stretching working capital for MSMEs. So even if you're dealing with large customers, even though there are guidelines around it, but we've seen typically across multiple sectors that the MSME receivables are always stretched. So that also makes it very difficult for them to underwrite. But of course, Threads kind of platform are there for highly rated paper, but what if it's not a highly rated paper? What if you are just a proprietor and other kind of businesses or below investment grade companies? So the working capital gap is always a problem. There's only that much they can invest. So that solving for that, it also becomes a very critical area for them. So these two areas we see as a very important helping leapfrog the MSME space.
Great, cool. Mr. Tiwari, sir.
I personally believe that 2047 will be an optimistic year. In next 20-21 years, lots of things will be changed. And we can see a flow of money to the base of the pyramid unconditional, with lots of responsibility, with lots of training and capacity building, and many more enterprises will come. As of now, the microfinance has created an infrastructure that needs to be leveraged in next 10 12 years. The 8 crore households, these are those who are availing the microfinance loan. They are the better segment from where the more enterprises can be developed. And in the, basically the rural families will be more independent in terms of their own earning, their own cash flows, and their own self-respect.
Thanks. Yeah, please.
Thank you. So I think the way, I think we all have discussed and the way we all are seeing, I think, and the type of various structures, infrastructure, structure, and all those things are being made. So 2047, I think maybe there may be more of policy interventions also. For example, we talk of guarantee in fact, but there may be incentive also. If you are paying in time, why shouldn't there be incentive? I mean, it may be as a structure part, you know, that can also happen. In fact, we always we talk of MSME, they can't charge the foreclosure charges. I think we should go, it should go away. You should be able to charge foreclosure charges because there is a cost involved in that. My sense is all these things also evolve over a period of time. And if you look at 2047, based on whatever is happening, I think the way you talk of SaaS model, it will be a fast model. Financing, you know, as far as MSME is concerned, it will be financing as a service. I think that is what I look forward, and that is visible to me if you look 20 years hence from here. It will be financing as a service. That is how I look at it.
Sure, sir. Thanks, thanks.
No, I like this FAST model because I was thinking of something similar, but I'm stealing the acronym. So I really think it's going to be fast, but here it is formalization at speed. And you're seeing that, labor reforms, unregistered shops getting registered. And I think there is a price to pay. You can see that in articles, is how much of companies' PAT is going to be impacted with labor laws and labor codes and reforms. But I think that's a necessary expense we all have to take, because if we formalize the economy, and 90% of India's economy are mom and pop shops. If we formalize that economy, that means all of you who have maids should be ready to pay ESIC, PF, etc. One day it will come, but that comes at a cost. If that happens, you're formalizing the economy, and the second you formalize an economy, most of the people here are going to be very rich lending to them, and that means the country is going to grow without doubt. So I have a feeling this is the direction. So FAST 2.0 may also help the whole thing.
Thank you so much, Dheeraj. So I think that was a wonderful discussion, very insightful. I would like to open the floor for the questions from the audience. Please feel free to ask anything. We are here to answer. Yeah. Okay, so I guess there are no questions. Then, okay, there is.
So there is a plethora of products. Unfortunately, it is marred by the very large product called microfinance, okay, which is 4 lakh crores thereabout, because that's been done to such perfection. But if you look at and I will keep saying base of the pyramid, because I feel bottom of the pyramid is a government's responsibility. So there is gold loan, like you mentioned. There is used commercial vehicle, which is a large segment, maybe 1.5, 2 lakh crores, which is already there. There is small business loans, both secured and unsecured. There is microfinance. And there are only, if you start doing discounting of UPI transactions, formal economy calls it loan against card receivable. And you don't need a card anymore. So there are so many products which will emerge. Fintechs have come and given what we loosely call personal loan, but they're actually not personal loans. They're reading some data and monetizing it. So the number of products which are hitting the base of the pyramid is mind-blowing. And fintechs are actually looking at data, and they're actually working at it. So it's no longer 1 or 2 products. And a classic example, which has been there for donkey's years, is used commercial vehicle finance. It runs the Indian economy, and that is a space where you've seen it operate very traditionally, but very few people actually know. There's one large player, and the next one is 1/20th its size. So products are many. End of the day, you're lending, so it can be called different names. Am I hijacking all of you? You can just take it.
There was no product left.
So just on, we have a few minutes, right? Just on products, since I have the bureau here, taxonomy is a big problem. What you call small business loan is not what I've had in mind, right? What you call loan against property is very different from what I have. What you say automobile loan, maybe use commercial vehicle in my hand. So hopefully, taxonomies across the financial industry, we'll nail it down. And when you say loan against property or small business loans, I'm reading it exactly the way you're saying it. And I think credit bureaus are taking the leap on this. We're all here to help. But yeah, then I think the products will all be the same.
Any more questions? Okay, so I think I'll just summarize the discussion in maybe few words here today. So I think the sense that I got today is that MSME financing for 2047 has to be data-led and not collateral-led, maybe. We can look at it that way. Could be digitally enabled, but at the same time institutionally disciplined, inclusive by design and not by exception. So if you're able to, I think, achieve all of these and put a governance framework around it, I think we are good to kickstart that journey from today. Thank you, our panelists, for the insightful discussion, and thanks, audience, for engaging so thoughtfully. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that very engaging discussion.